I hate the isekai genre for the same reason I hate Sword Art Online. Not because they're all bad, that applies to plenty of anime I don't waste energy hating on. I hate isekai because they waste potential. Happy day whatever of Webtoon Week, and Merry Christmas again in case it wasn't Christmas yet in your time zone when the last video came out. I'm sure everyone and their mother knows this, but isekai refers to stories that take place in a world different from the protagonist's place of origin. From outright transportation or summoning to reincarnation and maybe even travel or whatever else in between, any number of the myriad of methods, usually beginning with Truck-kun, have led to countless protagonists being isekai'd. This usually gives a writer the potential to create new, interesting worlds, introduce concepts completely foreign to humans originating on Earth, explore the psyches of characters who try to rationalize or come to terms with their deaths and marooning from their original worlds, and create entirely new cultures, political dynamics, and philosophies that wouldn't fit on Earth. Boundless opportunities that exceed even what fantasy by itself provides, because protagonists that contrast these new worlds, possessing different morals, knowledge, and skills, exist and are reduced to garbage tier harem power fantasies or their seasonal rendition of the smartphone isekai. You see that? That's my problem with isekai. Regardless, in the interest of fairness, I'll throw isekai a bone. Although no all-time greats have arisen from this genre, there are at least a few stories that I can't deny are standouts. Overlord plays into the power fantasy and harem tropes, but is at least undeniably well written and put together with consistent character writing, interesting plot hooks, good pacing, and all the hype and tension the young boys could ask for. ReZero was probably the first isekai we got that people looked at and thought, maybe this stuff can be good. No sunshine or rainbows, Subaru lives his second life in misery, trying desperately to protect his peace in spite of the curse placed upon him and his continued mistakes and blunders. Nothing gets handed to him, so he perseveres and tries to defend what he holds dear in this new life, scrapping and clawing against fate, battling the urge to just quit and resign himself to what will be, and even going through the character arc you'd expect from someone who was ripped from his own world in the second season. It gives us what isekai promises, and no harem does not mean no waifus. Mushoku Tensei was perhaps the turning point even after that, the point when isekai fans could actually proudly recommend something. With stunning visuals, incredible characters, magnificent direction and voice acting, pacing from the heavens through precise storytelling and progression, and even a main character that can only exist because he was isekai'd, all come together to form something beautiful. Rudius Greyrat was a waste of a man in his previous life, an absolute shut-in that burdened his family for as long as he lived and showed no remorse for it. He was all a person was meant to strive not to become, and it was the result of trauma experienced earlier in his life. The kind of thing that doesn't go away just because you are given a second crack at life. Rudy has to live with his demons and overcome them time and again as his many old character flaws pervade his new life. Mushoku Tensei tells many good stories, one for each of the characters who grace the page or screen, and it's a story that can only be told because it was an isekai, not an incidental and tropey tale that just happens to have an otherwise perfectly normal guy occupy the role of an isekai victim just so he can explain the world with references Earthlings would understand without breaking character. And if you love that, you'll love the beginning after the end. T-Bait is another reincarnation isekai, one not unlike Mushoku Tensei, but coming in the form of a webtoon which allows this to be uploaded this week. Following the end of his long and busy life, one King Grey of a world that wasn't actually Earth finds himself reborn as son to young couple Alice and Reynolds as Arthur Lewin. When I say this resembles Mushoku Tensei greatly in its beginning phases, I really mean it. He comes to realize this is some world in the far past, comes to terms with it, lives a peaceful medieval life, watches his dad train in the sword, gets hurt one day and discovers magic as his mother heals him. Similarities don't end there though. He keeps crawling into the home library at every available opportunity and eventually activates his magic early in life as a child prodigy. He's beyond the ability level his parents could manage to train, so they decide to find him a tutor and venture to the capital to meet someone suitable. Only they get raided by bandits, and I won't spoil anything from there since that's where they stop being identical. Now, I don't think the beginning after the end is good because it's a Mushoku Tensei clone. It was just funny how similar they started out. In Arthur's previous life, he lived in a world where fighters had ki at their disposal that they used to enhance their fighting the way augmenters do in this new world. And Arthur rose to the position of king as the strongest fighter, not as the result of his lineage. So he's someone already experienced and skilled in swordsmanship. And the few similarities between ki and magic are what led to him appearing prodigious in ability. Unlike many of the power fantasies I draw problems with, he doesn't appear, get blessed, and say, get wrecked. Most of his ability is fairly earned and is the direct benefit of having had a previous life of experience. If anything, because the story takes place without ever allowing him to reach adulthood, at least thus far, being born in this world is closer to a debuff than an upgrade for a length of time, as his feeble infant body can hardly manage the things he asks of it. As scaling and presenting reasonable and believable challenges is a point Isekai tend to struggle with, I think this is a great angle because he doesn't get to steamroll through everything. He has to deal with the frustrations of his inadequacies in a way similar to Subaru from ReZero, but without the safety net of unlimited lives tethering him forever to the mortal plane. I may sound like I always harp on about challenges, tension, and difficulty, but those are things vital to keeping any action story interesting. I've spoken about a handful of romance titles before and naturally never raised any expectations for characters to go through training arcs and dual love rivals to win over the hearts of their beloveds, but even those needed some ways to create tension. Utilizing anything from the communication breakdowns that I hate to mental baggage hindering a character's ability to pursue love or even conflicting feelings due to the presence of multiple suitors. Even the popular One Punch Man I talked about a little before introduces tension by having all the side characters engage in the action before Saitama shows up, and has the main character's progression and character arc come in the form of his pursuit for a worthy adversary as he dreads the power he wishes he'd never worked to obtain. With the little tension rant out of the way, now that I've stressed how that's a basic thing all good stories should have, save for maybe comedy of course, I'm not going to praise the beginning after the end for doing the bare minimum. Even if that's an accomplishment among isekai. Another thing I appreciate is the world building. Though elves and dwarves aren't far off from the regular Lord of the Rings-esque worlds the vast majority of isekai copy and paste, it introduces politics. There's a history to each of the kingdoms. All of the rulers are important and fleshed out characters. There are mysteries surrounding what exists beyond the seas that encircle the land of Dicathin. Racism isn't minimized to, "You have fluffy ears, so you're a dog. You're my pet now. Mwahahaha." The characters feel emotions and they're real enough people that you can empathize and share in their joys and sorrows. Sure, I'm not giving many specific references to avoid spoiling and keep this video's production manageable, but from my vague hints and references, I think you can get how this is different from Deathmatch Kara Hajimaru Isekai Kyouso Kyoku. Any more words and my vocal cords will explode. Read the beginning after the end or don't. It's not like I care. Baka. Kenchan out. Subscribe to make sure I come back.